When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
LinkedIn is pretty amazing at helping you grow your small business. We cannot stop your new clients from emailing you at 3 a.m. We can help you sell, market, and hire in one place. We cannot help you be in 3 places at once. And while we can't help you organize your calendar, LinkedIn can help you land more clients so you have a calendar to organize. Grow your small business on LinkedIn. Learn more at linkedin.com/smallbusiness.
Well, hello. And welcome to the Riffs on the Riffs on the Riffs, where we're going to have a potentially difficult conversation today, based on the theme of this song. We're gonna talk about love. We're gonna talk about perhaps unrequited love. And we're going to have some honest and transparent talk about what happens if you don't want my love. You know, what do you do with that? So listeners, settle in. We're going to go deep today. Right?
There we go.
That's what I got from the show notes, Toby. Is that correct?
That's what you got? I think it's quite accurate, I guess. I mean, we don't talk about things too much before we jump in a session.
Clearly.
So clear. Listeners, I'm just as shocked as all of you are right now. Taking notes, checking them twice. And, well, hey, Riff Nation, thanks so much for joining us today. The song that we are looking to discuss is called If You Don't Want My Love by an artist named Jalen Ngonda. Jalen came out with this song was featured on his album that came out in September of 2023. You know, I'm always interested in several things when we talk about an artist, like, okay, how do they write? What's their process? Who are their inspirations? Who do I want to hear them with? These are conversations that you and we always have, but I'm also very interested to find out when we, as the listening public, find out about said artist. Like, how did you find out about this guy? When was the first time you heard it? Did I send it to you, or did you send it to me? Did you hear it out in the wild? What was it?
Per usual for me, it was it showed up on Spotify as, I'm sure I was listening to some like Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings, which led into other stuff, right? And so when you just let it play, then obviously it's going to pick similar stuff. And I think that's how he showed up. And then it was one of those artists, because I went back and looked, that I marked as like, oh, it's a cool track, cool vibe. I want to go check it out. But I do sometimes a notoriously bad job of, like, I flag this stuff and then I don't actually go back. And then I get real frustrated because I'm like, where's the good music? And then it's like, just go look at the list that you've been curating. So I did not do that. But then when you sent this track over, I was like, oh yeah. Good stuff. Let's do it. So what was your exposure, Tobe?
I think that I went down a music rabbit hole. I think you had sent me a song. It might have been, what's the name of that one group? Is it the Pumas? Oh yeah. So it was it was
Black
them
Pumas?
listening to the Black Pumas, right? So listening to them, I didn't want to say, I thought it was Black Pumas, but at the same time,
I'm pretty sure. Now I'm questioning.
Is that just a sneaker I like?
Right.
Is that what
Right.
we talk? Now I got to check. Now I have to check because I want to make sure that I'm saying it right. Yeah, so I think it was listening. Yep, the Black Pumas. There you go. So it's the Black Pumas, listening to them. And I just went on this crazy kick of listening to a certain style of music. I would say, like, for me, it was Sacred Souls and it was also The Dip, right? So listening to those guys, and I was like, man, I'm really, and then it just, again, it gave me suggestions. Spotify gave me some suggestions on the algorithm and say, hey, you should check this out. And this was the first song that popped up, and I was like, oh my God, I love this. Why haven't I? And immediately I thought, just because of the way that he presents himself, all like his photography, his, all of the assets that he puts out there, I thought that, well, this is just an artist that I missed. I mean, this is a retro. I didn't think it was retro. I just felt like there's no way this is new. This is old. This is an old song that I just missed. Okay, cool. And I looked, I was like, is that 23? Oh my God. When was this dude born? 94?
94, yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This dude was born at the same time I was listening to Nas.
1994,
1994. Like, what are we, like, crazy? And that just, I love when I talk to other folks and I'm like, hey, have you listened to this? And they're like, man, I just heard of this dude. Like,
yeah.
And anybody new that I introduced the song to, they love it. So this is my jam. I've been listening to it for the last couple of years. Super excited. He's got a new album coming out, and I think it's like appropriate that we talk about Jalen now before this new album comes out, because we've been talking about, I don't know, just this organic music wave that is coming right now, and I feel it, and it's like, oh, it's a wave, and I'm trying to ride it as long as possible. Between her, Olivia Dean, Ray, for that matter, especially with this last single that she came out with, the Click Clack Symphony. I mean, we are looking for this wave of real organic music. But let's get specific. Yeah, let's talk about him for a little bit. I mean, can you talk a little bit about his history and like where?
Yeah, what little we know. I mean, interestingly, he was, like you said, he was born in 94, grew up in Maryland, and loved music, right? His dad grew up exposing him to Motown and all the great stuff, all the classics. And I guess he kind of picked up some instruments starting at age 11, drums, piano, guitar, started playing. By 14, he was writing his own stuff. By 16, he was performing. And as others have, here's a quote from him about kind of grown up in the church, right? He said, Merriwell, Sam Cooke, Otis Redding, Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye, there's hundreds of singers, Percy Sledge, they all grew up in the church where they were singing in a certain way and a certain style. And so I think you can compare all of those soul singers together because it's just a way of singing. But that's the way of singing that I've listened to the most. So I'm going to sound like that. It's probably just my own way. And so I think you can definitely hear certainly Sam Cooke, like just very similar. And then the church was the supporting kind of kickoff for his career because they kind of banded together. He was looking at some of the art schools in New York and whatever. And I guess Paul McCartney founded a school over in England. The name escapes me at the moment, but he was like, all right.
Liverpool. Yeah,
okay.
It was, something. I want to say Liverpool's in the title.
Liverpool Institute for Performing Arts.
There we go.
So the church raised some money, sent him over there, and he's kind of been there ever since. So I think there's this misnomer that he's an English artist because that's where he spends a lot of his time. But he's not. This album was actually recorded in the now defunct Hive Mind recording in Brooklyn. But I was just looking up. I was like, oh, I know somebody in Brooklyn. I'd love to check out that studio, but apparently they shut it down. But not a ton of known about him other than that's kind of his story is grew up here, moved there, and kind of had a chance. There was a show with, he got invited to perform with Jules Holland, and That kind of was like the discovery part. And then apparently in November of 24, the Graham Norton show where everybody just kind of sits around on the couch and talks to Graham. So he's sitting there with Cher, with Keira Knightley, with Michael Fassbender, Josh Brolin, right? So imagine you're this young artist and you're just like hanging out on the couch and you're like, huh, all right.
Should that Cher? Is that
what?
Keira Knightley? What is going?
What is happening?
What in the world
Thanos?
of Bendit?
Is that Thanos?
What in the world of Bendit like Beckham is going on right here? What is this? Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about, sorry, go ahead.
No, and then he performed this song on Colbert in January of 25. So, this song was actually released as a single in March of 23, then on his album in September. So a year and a half later, now he's on Colbert. He's got his new album coming out in June. So I do think you're right. Like, I mean, look, this song has 186 million streams on Spotify. It's not like we're breaking an artist here, but I do think that we're shining a light on somebody who maybe is not mainstream, but Snoop and Olivia Dean have both said, hey, check this guy. And Elton John, all like, this guy's the real deal. Check him out. So
he is the real deal. He most definitely is the real deal. He's so real that his interviews are interesting to listen to for not the obvious reason. Okay. Just not the obvious reason. I love listening to artist interviews. Artists are people. I'm a talker. I love listening to other people talk and just kind of going back and forth, like hearing their creative answers to questions, the same questions they get asked all the time. Well, this is one artist, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this dude does not like interviews. He doesn't like them. And if he does, I'd be surprised. I would literally be surprised. If he I love it. No, stop lying, Jalen. We know you do not want to be here. You just want to be in the studio recording and then be left alone. He doesn't want to be compared to anyone. He's like, I'm just doing me. I just want to make the music that makes me happy. You can make all the comparisons you want, but if you like my music, that is the best thing you can say. And then just leave it at that. Don't make any Marvin Gaye comparisons. Don't compare. And like, he is not here for any of that. That's like, I've listened to literally 3 interviews from this dude and it's blatantly clear. I'm like, well, maybe he just doesn't like this journalist. Okay. Is secondary, like, maybe he doesn't like journalists.
Well,
that's the case.
That's possible.
No, I don't think it's that. I just think he is not super, it doesn't appear to be super comfortable in front of a mic unless he got a guitar in hand and actually performing. And that's fine. No criticism, no shade. It is what it is. I like his music a lot. And, I love his, like you say, his vocal quality is just something different. It's definitely I've heard other songs have popped up on my algorithm when I just let it go. And I've automatically known, like, that's Jalen. Like, I know it's that dude. Like, even before I knew his name, like knew his name, I was like, well, that's the same dude that plays that one song that I like so much. And I looked on my phone. Yep, sure. There it is. He's got a very distinct type voice. And
yes.
I think it's great. I love the story about how the community pulled together to send him over to this school. I thought that was great. Even though he did drop out in the middle of the first year, I
wasn't going to mention that part, Toby.
No, but I think
he's done okay for himself, though.
I think he's done fantastic. I think sometimes, and I think he will say that, I think sometimes the obvious path is not the path to be taken. And I think that when you get over there, and I think he got over there, and I think the school, I think he recognized just how good he was, and was like, wait a minute, I can get gigs right now. I want to go. And I think he made the right decision. And I also want to say this too, and I wasn't trying to be funny or disrespectful in mentioning the fact that he dropped out. What I guess I was trying to say is that I think you could look at that situation in 2 different ways. Like, well, hey, the community gave him money. They invested in him to ... And I think that
And it was a good investment.
it was a great investment. It was a great, regardless of school or not, regardless of how long he was there, it was a great investment, and it is literally paying off. I think it's fantastic that the community did that. I wish we had more. I love stories like that. I love stories. I think that's a good way. Got to feel love. He had to feel like, man, that I got all of these people that believe in me. The days that I'm doubting myself, I have this story to look back at and source, strength. So
For those who are not familiar with his sound, this is how he describes it on his own. Probably one of these interviews that was like pulling teeth. Modern soul and R&B with the Beach Boys and Beatles somewhere in between. So I don't know what you go listen to it, but to me, Toby, this is exactly. I pulled out my box set of Hitsville, USA, the Motown singles from 59 to 71. This is, by the way, my, not that anybody has a CD player anymore, but it's my summer. Like come June, that's, all of these tracks are running because for some reason, Motown to me just screams sunshine, and even the stuff that's not, subject matter stuff that's not necessarily light or happy, which a lot of Motown isn't. But the vibes and the soul of Motown just kind of inspire that specific thing for me. And that's exactly where this song fits.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I heard it and I was like, is he covering It's a Shame by the Spinners? Because it's like kind of the same track. But look, all of those Motown stuff, there's a similar, it sounds like Motown for a reason. So that's not just an observation. Right down to the, hey, let's record this live in a studio with the band, put it on tape.
Yeah.
So I think you can feel some of that organicness of that. And interestingly, I think we were talking, in the Harry Styles episode about how the crafting of sonic masterpieces, right? And using that whole wide spectrum and taking listeners on a journey through the hi-fi. And I think it just sits right in the middle. Like there's a little bit of a stereo spread, but it is almost like old mono or, those Motown tracks where it was like, we're just kind of sitting in this center space here and everybody's real close and comfortable. We're not getting crazy with instrument panning or anything like that. It's a vibe. It is a vibe to feature the vocal talent and, the great musicianship. And that's it. Let's go capture performance and make it cool.
Well, I've seen Olivia Dean and several other artists that I really, really like, and the way that, they've recorded their albums with, them doing all the backgrounds. And I think that that's fantastic. I've certainly done that, but there's nothing like recording your own background harmonies. You know exactly what you want, and, and you can experiment in real time. And I think that that's beautiful. But I also think it's just a different approach to things that, Jalen does with his songs, and having different artists, whether it's like three women and one guy all singing, different parts of the harmony. I think it just gives a different texture to it because you hear all their individual voices and it truly sounds like the Motown-ish. And it also sounds like, hey, we're all in the studio together. I mean, I'm not sure if they do this or not, but I feel like they're all in the studio together recording the song live. That is the way it feels to me. It feels like I know I've read somewhere where the Beatles did that. Like, hey, we're all playing it together starting right now. That's just the way that people recorded back in the day. And it gives me that feel. And I have to go back and listen to more of his songs again, like re-listen. He doesn't do he sings a lot of his songs pretty straight. And what I mean by that is not like the background is coming in at, choruses, but his verses, I want to say for a lot of them, it's just his voice. And, and that's different in itself. Modern R&B is very, layered, and you think in Boys to Men. Yeah. And he's like, no, we're going back. And I love it.
Well, I mean, and I love that these backup groups, whatever. I mean, go all the way back to Motown. Stations was a band. The Four Tops were a band. And yeah, you had, for the Temps, you had David Ruffin singing lead for a lot of that stuff, or Eddie Kendricks, but you had, that ensemble vibe. And even in modern, well, not modern anymore, but, think of rock, bands like Van Halen. Sure, whether you had Sammy or David or whoever singing, you've got Michael Anthony singing backup, which is such an important and underrated part of that entire sound. And because, to your point, it's a completely different sound, texture, tone. It provides flavor, a little seasoning. And so, Jalen's recording with the Extraordinaires, who backed up, what was his name? Oh, Charles Bradley, the Screaming Eagle. Have you ever listened to that cat? Woo! He's got that nickname for a reason. But when you start to the band gets a label and gets a moniker, and like Gladys Knight and the Pips or whatever, right? Like there's a recognition of that talent and what that talent is doing to support the overall sound, even though it's not the main featured vocalist. But Jalen wouldn't sound like this. I mean, he'd sound good, and it would just be different if he didn't take this approach.
Agreed. I think he really knew what he wanted, and I think that's what you get. I think, his songs come out, and I've listened to two songs that are, the first two songs, I guess, that were released for the new album. And, I'm digging those as well. And he's in this lane, and he's just staying there. It's like, and again, which is great. He knows his sound. He knows what he really wants to do. As far as you talked about, like, the flavor and the texture. And I was thinking about that, and like an analogy I like to use was like, okay, beef stew is, that stew just has beef, and that's fine. It is good. I mean, there's vegetables in it too, but there's only one type of protein. Whereas his stuff is kind of like, it's like a gumbo where you have different types of protein.
I love me some gumbo.
I know.
That sounds real good. We should go down to New Orleans, get some gumbo.
Absolutely. So, but that's kind of what it feels like. It's like there's so many things that are featured in his stuff. There's so much stuff that is featured because, his music, I think his voice is dope, but I think he just uses it as an instrument. And even, I think it's like you said, everything's just kind of in the middle. I don't think his voice is necessarily featured like it's some amazing Adele type or Peebo Bryson type of, no, it's just like, it's just
drop a Peebo Bryson reference.
Listen, have you listened to Peebo? I love Peebo.
Not
Peebo's
in about
ridiculous.
30, 40 years.
Dude, Peebo Bryson is one of the only cats that I give like this level of respect to, because that dude cannot only say, Peebo Bryson is amazing. I've been
sleeping on Peebo.
Look, opera singer,
did not know that.
He can do pretty much anything. For someone that could do R&B and then flip it to opera and win Grammys on that, he is amazing. Peebo has a humongous voice. You're not going to find very many that are on that level, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Peebo Bryson.
All right. I had no idea. So much respect to Peebo. I'm going to have to go back to the catalog.
Yeah. Just check him out. I mean, he can do something. He could do it all. He could do it all. And I think that level of diversity of talent, the variety, I think is insane. You could do all of that. That's crazy to me, Anyway, back to Jalen. So yeah, he's solid. I'm very interested to see what the next full project. And I'm looking at this wave of music, and it's interesting when, again, listening to the interviews with this guy, they ask him what he's listening to now. It's funny. This dude was born in 94. You're talking about, literally, this dude was born during the golden age of hip hop. And when asked about like, hey, what was your dad listening to? It's like, my dad was listening to, there's a whole bunch of hip hop going on in my house right now. Whole bunch of hip hop. He didn't really like get into music as far as like loving it until, I don't know, 11 years old or something to that effect. I think that's when he started picking up instruments. Before then, he was playing video games, which is, again, such an honest and transparent thing to say. But then he found this type of music with the Beach Boys or whoever. And that music, the 60s music, really resonated with him so much, in fact, that even now, this dude does not listen to a lot of different types of music at all. He is very, like limits what he likes and what he's into. He's like, no, I like this. Why would I? No shade to anybody else, And then he said something about, which I thought was such a wonderful answer. He wasn't throwing shade at any other type of music. He asked, like, who would you want to perform with? He's like, I would write with anyone, but I'm not going to give you, any names of people, not to say that I'm better or whatever. I don't want to put a dream out there and it not happen. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. But I think all this music, regardless of the genre, is all coming from different places, but it's all from the same source. And I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at it. It kind of supports our theory about music being like a universal language. You might have a different dialect, but we're all speaking the language. So.
Well, and he's already done some interesting collabs. Like he's on the new Gorillaz album, which was interesting. That album dropped when I was traveling. And so I was sitting in an airport and I just listened to that whole thing through and didn't make a connection until researching the show that he's on that track called The Moon Cave. And on that, so he's been compared to Bobby Womack. And so on that track, they've got archived, because obviously Bobby passed away. And so they've got some of his stuff on there. And then they've got Trugoy the Dove from De La Soul on there, again, posthumously, like some of his tracks or some of his vocals or whatever. And so it's this interesting mix of old school, like, recordings with new talent that sounds old school. Mm-hmm. The album itself is it's like every Gorillaz album, but in the sense that it's an interesting journey and there's always interesting things going on in addition to the crazy story arcs and everything else that comes with the Gorillaz. But so that was surprising. Like when you think about collabs, I don't know that you would initially say, "Oh yeah, I could totally see this guy on a Gorillaz track," right? But
I don't know if I'd say anybody was. I don't know if I could pick anybody. This like
that's also a good point.
Like he's on the right, but to your point, I think I think he's just one of those artists that just like, he just loves the process. He'll write with anyone. I think that's literally what he said. I'm down to write with whoever, even, so known artists or my neighbor, like a complete stranger. If it comes out good, it comes out good. And it's like, that's awesome. That's what music is supposed to be about. Like, dude, if you could play, come on, I love that. I love that vibe. So
let's talk about his voice specifically. How would you describe it? And again, knowing that he doesn't like being compared, but is there anybody that you would necessarily compare him to? This episode of Riffs on Riffs is brought to you by DistroKid, your ultimate partner for taking your music to the next level.
With DistroKid, uploading your songs or albums to online stores and streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music is easier than ever. Plus, you can easily pay your collaborators with splits and send large files securely to anyone with Instant Share.
And guess what else? You can get a YouTube official artist channel for free via DistroKid. You can send credits to stores, and you can use Hyperfollow to promote your release.
DistroKid has everything you need to succeed in the digital music landscape.
But that's not all. DistroKid now offers a convenient mobile experience with the DistroKid app, available on iOS and Android.
With the app, you can manage your releases, track your streaming stats, and even withdraw your earnings, all from the palm of your hand. And for the artists looking to perfect their sound, there's Mixia. With Mixia, you can put the finishing touches on your tracks in minutes, ensuring they sound polished and professional every time.
And if you need to share large files securely with collaborators, producers, or playlist curators, look no further than Instant Share. It's free to send up to 1 gigabyte of files, and your music will stream at the highest quality, making the best impression possible.
So why wait? Elevate your music career today with DistroKid and unlock a world of possibilities.
Riffs on Riffs listeners get 30% off their first year at DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/riffs-on-riffs.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. And that means so many new reasons to rack.
Because I always find something amazing.
Just so many good brands.
Because there's always something new.
Join the Nordy Club to unlock exclusive discounts, shop new arrivals first, and more. Plus, buy online and pick up at your favorite rack store for free. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
I'm having a hard time comparing them with any one particular artist. I mean, somebody had said something on an interview about him, comparing him to the Bee Gees, and I think that's mainly because they both sang in a very high register. He sings
Sure.
not head voice. And I understand that. I get it, but that's not completely.
I don't hear Bee Gees at all.
It,
So
I
just because
understand.
you're singing a falsetto doesn't make you a Bee Gee. Wait, what? Okay.
Right. And so to me, it's hard. I don't know. I hear there are parts of songs that I've heard that I'm like, okay, that's good. That sounds like that. But, like the end of the first song that he has on that album, I think it sounds very Motown. They all sound Motown-ish, but it sounded very much so like a Marvin Gaye song.
Mm.
But his and Marvin's voice are really different
Very
to
different.
me. I compared the music itself, yes, but the voice is different. What about you? Are you hearing anything?
I mean, I do think he sounds a lot like, not a lot, but enough like Sam Cooke. I think he's got a little more grit. And so it's almost like if you took that, or if you took Smokey, right, who's also singing a lot in that upper register, but you put in some of the grit of pick one of the Ruffin brothers, Jimmy, David, doesn't matter, like how they have, or like a Levi Stubbs from the Four Tops. They've got that that grit in their voice, because I think he's got some interesting combination of both, where he can sing really pure, especially when he's really up in that upper register, but he can add that additional layer of oomph behind it that kind of gives it a little more, I guess grit is the right word, a little more texture.
Yeah.
So I think in some ways it's a little, when it's not tamed, it can be a little piercing, but I also think that part of that is just potentially the recording process and intentional. So, and that's just for me personally. I'm like, oh, I wish they would add that just a little bit, but it's part of the vibe.
Yeah. Stylistically, I think the way that it was, even the way that you shared that video with me this morning or last night, in that video with him singing live, and even that sounded a little bit different than his actual recording. And it's like, okay, when he's recording, he might hit that particular note or several notes just a little bit different, depending on how long he's been singing. And he just came to the studio just to record that song. You can give it all you got. And now he's singing live, and it's like he has to come down a little bit because he's got a full set to sing. He's got a full set. So, but I totally understand what you're saying. I think it's a good comparison. Very rarely do I hear somebody hit the falsetto this well, and also with this much grit, like you said, like this much power behind it. He's got a power falsetto, not a light
power falsetto. That's a perfect term.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate.
Copyright that one, Toby. That's a good one.
I should. Right along with
start calling you PF.
Oh, damn. Pat Riley's got that. It's all good. I said 3P. So Pat Riley's got that. Can't do it. It's I think that's the part that throws me off, because he does sing in the falsetto, but man, he sings with so much power in the falsetto to me. It was just like, whoa, he's going, whoo, I think that's,
well, talk
nice
to me from a technical standpoint on this, because I'm not the vocalist you are. I can put grit on my voice. I have no idea how I would ever do that when I'm singing in my falsetto. like, because that grit is coming from the throat, I think, at least for me. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but like, I don't even know how you would get that when you shift into your head voice. Like, where is that texture coming from? Because most of the time, I mean, if you think of the great falsetto singers, right, like Frankie Valli, that is just pure, like there is no grit. Right. Because I don't know how you would do that. So I'm a little bit like confused. Like, how is this possible?
Yeah. It's, when you're singing the head voice, I don't know, it's like certain, even as I prepare, if I think about it, posture changes.
Sure.
And,
You just did it. You just sat back a little bit. And,
It's like, okay, if I'm going to do that, like, I think when you're doing with a little bit of grit, sometimes you're not singing it technically the way that you're taught, and you're kind of letting things slide, and you're pushing a little bit harder. And I think that's just a sound that you get. I think it's totally a stylistic thing. I don't know that you necessarily get taught that, but I think it's almost like autodidactic, right? Or you kind of figured it out yourself, and then you liked it enough that you kept doing it.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not comparing myself to, any of these artists that we know, but, I noticed when the older I got, the more I was singing, the more I could tap into a little bit of grit, and a little more gravelly, and it sounded okay, where it's like, oh, okay, let's roll with it. That's not something I'm not going to shy away from that. Like, oh no, I didn't hit that note like pure. No, it's cool. It's cool. That's the way I want to do it. So yeah, practice, I guess, and just kind of knowing your voice. I don't know if everyone can do it. It's just the way that everybody's voice is kind of set up. I don't know, like Adele. Like, does Adele have grit in her voice? I mean, I don't know. Think about it. She's got a lot of grit.
Yeah. I think she can, but she's, again, I mean, it's Adele. She kind of can.
She can kind of do whatever.
She can whatever, right?
She's a diva, right?
Yeah,
she is one of the ones, right? But I don't think everybody's not necessarily built like, obviously everybody ain't built like Adele. So yeah, this dude is able to tap into that, and I think it's good. It's definitely memorable. Having like a power falsetto is definitely very distinct. I don't think we're going to mix up this guy's voice with anybody else. I can hear him on another song, and it might throw me off because the genre of music is not totally 60s. That would be the only thing that would, mess things up for me. Otherwise, like, oh, that's that. Yeah, that's Jalen. That's Ngonda for sure. Got it.
Yeah. So there's definitely a resurgence coming around. We've got Leve doing kind of that throwback vibe with jazz influenced, all of that. We've got, pretty much everybody on the Daptone label is kind of similar in vibe, right? And so he's bringing back this sort of Motown sound. We've got cats like Steven Sanchez, who we should probably do an episode on, who's also kind of doing that throwback sound. It's interesting why. I know that everything comes back around at some point, but I'm curious why we're specifically, it seems to be focused on the 50s, 60s as this vibe that we want to bring back. And I'm just curious. I'm sure there's 20 different factors that we could list, but any ideas on what you think the impetus for all of this is?
Yeah, I have my thoughts on it, but I want to hear what your thoughts are first. I know you're asked the question. That's unfair. But I'm going to be unfair because we're friends. We can do that, right? This is a day before your birthday. I appreciate that, but
sure.
It ain't your birthday. If it was your birthday, I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't. Okay. But it ain't your birthday, so you're not the you're just blowing out candles today. So with all that being said, what do you think?
What do I think? I think that we are living geopolitically, globally, in chaotic times, and when all of that stress comes to a head, then it's natural for humanity to yearn for yesteryear, whether that is accurate or not as a calming, because certainly, the 60s were a very tumultuous time. So it's not like you're going back and saying, oh, things were better then, but it's more similarly, I think music that was being created then was addressing the times, but also providing some light in the darkness, I guess. So I know that's the heavy answer. I think a lighter answer is there was just great songwriting. It was compact. It was intentional. It always involved, a cadre of talented musicians, typically in a room at the same time, which I think we're starting to see bands getting back to that. I think people are, again, craving that human connection. And what is more connecting than performing music with people? Whether that's at a drum circle, with hundreds of people in a park, or in a studio with the band you've been playing with for 10 years. Like, there are those moments that you can't duplicate doing anything else. And this kind of music lends itself to that. It's a little harder to do, lots of different genres like in this way. I mean, you can't do hip hop, you can't do metal, right? Like, those are built for overlays, for overdubbing, for creating sonic masterpieces, as opposed to capturing the essence of a feeling in time in a musical environment. I guess those are a couple answers. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like your answer. I'm going to push back on one point. I would say that hip hop can be that way. It just has to be done differently. And I think you got Roots who do a really good job. I feel they have a big band feel. Not a lot of people can do what the Roots do, but the Roots are they're that good. I think you've got a lot of, and I really think it's access to musicians. And I think
that's true.
So with hip hop, the beautiful part about it is like, well, shoot, if I want to come out with music, I have all these words in my head. If I got these beats in my head, this image of what a song can sound like with my voice on it, I can do it literally all by myself. I don't need to ... It's the same thing with kids that live in the city that I think would be fantastic athletes for other sports, whether it be volleyball or whether it be tennis, or golf for that matter. But unless you've got access, well, dude, we probably playing basketball.
Yep.
It's probably what we're going to do. It's a low barrier of entry. So that's the one part. And then I guess to the other thing, I think people right now are, whenever something pushes one way really strongly, the pendulum always tries to come back the other way. We are we have celebrated things that, the microwave type society, and wanting things fast and wanting things And we stood in so many fast food lines of connection. We are now have deprived ourselves of the nutrients of an organic relationship. And I think that is where we are at. We are right now trying to find our tribe to get the nutrients that we're not getting from everything else. We are, we're finding more leaders that are like, yeah, we can do it Zoom, but man, if I could just meet your team face to face, that would be so much better. Yeah, I know it's driving. I got it, but I'm going to do that. You've even talked to me. I've noticed even a shift with us because, as an example of one of those leaders that's, hey, let me meet you face to face. Let's not do that. I mean, I'm that guy now. And I remember you talking about just walking through the woods as you do from time to time without listening to anything, just quiet. We are striving to get those nutrients of connection. And I think music is no different. I think this gives us the perfect template for us to talk about all the things. And I don't want to get too hooky, but, I definitely believe in a higher power. And I think that people that can tap into it, especially musically, there hasn't been a more important time to do it than right now. I think there hasn't been a more important time. I think literally, not trying to be an alarmist, but I think lives are at stake. This is very important. So one thing I knew when I saw the way that things were moving politically, I said, well, here's one thing I know, Joe. There's one thing I know. I said, the music is going to be fantastic.
Yep.
For the next couple of years.
The arts always come to bear.
They always come to bear, yeah. And like whatever's going to happen, the music is going to be fantastic. And I can tell you, I was at a protest yesterday, and it's just surrounded by a whole bunch of other people that some I knew, a lot of people I didn't know, holding up signs. And the honks that we got from, people that were driving by. And, we did get, we did get a lot of single finger, salutes, that were there from drive-bys. And I think we counted like around 16, 17 for the 2 hours that we're out there in 34-degree weather. But the number of honks that we got far outweighed the single finger salutes. And, just knowing that other people believe like you do. I mean, have you ever been to a concert that you went by yourself because you appreciated that artist so much? You couldn't necessarily get anybody to come with you, or maybe you did, but they weren't nearly as into the music as you were. We were mainly there for you. Like,
I remember, and so I think this will answer your question, because I honestly don't remember if I took anybody with me.
Sure. The concert was that good.
Well, because it was Robert Cray. He was at House of Blues, and that's absolutely somebody I think I heard about it last minute. I was like, all right, I'm going to this show. And I just remember being so close to the stage and kind of just in the zone, just watching that man perform and the way he captivates a room. And, I think it's interesting. That's another guy who can have a power of falsetto, which I had not thought about, but that's interesting. And it can be a little brittly too, but between his voice and his playing, like, it's just, they're both equally amazing. And so yes, I've done it. Apologies to whoever might have been with me at that show, but it was just that captivating. So I might have been there by myself.
I remember going to a Cannibal Ox show at Cannibal Ox Height, right? So I remember going to that show. Brandon and I went, right? So we're there. We drove there together. And after we got in, we just kind of separated. He was doing his thing. I was doing mine. There were some other acts. I don't remember one previous act. I don't care. All I know is I was standing next to this other dude when Cannibal Ox finally got on stage, and they are doing their songs. They're doing the set, and I am completely in it. I am reciting the words, and this dude, I never met him before. We are acting as if we are on stage and performing these songs. We're surrounded by these other people. Like, we know all of the words, and we are just getting hyper and hyper and hyper. And I'm like, I don't know how this dude voted. I don't know what this dude's middle name is. I don't know if this dude has a job, what type of job he's going to on Monday, if this dude has siblings, if he's got kids, if he plays sports, if he lifts on a regular basis, what is the last book that he read? But I know one thing right now, in this moment, we are breathing the same air. We are in a tribe. We are single-minded, focused on just experiencing this moment. And that was beautiful. And I feel right now, people are searching for that type tribe. And I know I experienced it yesterday with the protest. I love having these type conversations, even though it's a two-man tribe to a certain extent, these conversations that we have. But I love looking at our numbers monthly and seeing how many people are in our tribe, and listening to the conversation and having it, elsewhere, in other states, in other countries, talking about this. To me, there's just something about that, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, I want to circle back because I think you made me think about what we're being fed right now and the nutrients. And, if music is sort of the organic replenishment of the things that we're not getting, it's what's happening right now between what leaders across the spectrum are spewing, which is not happy, and which is divisiveness and hate, and what we're getting from the algorithms and social media. Like, all of these things are intended to take little nibbles out of us on a regular basis. And by the time you get to the end of the day, you don't even realize it, but you've got huge chunks taken out of, important parts of your body. And that is such an important reason for music to come back and be that sort of replenishment. And whether it's hey, I'm disconnecting after work and I'm listening to a great album on the way home, or I'm putting my headphones in, before I go to sleep, to just kind of like finding those songs and those artists that are replenishing you, as opposed to taking the chunks out of you that the world is doing, I think is maybe more important than it's been in a long, long time.
Yeah. No, I I agree. I agree. I've got this framework that I'm working on. It's not totally set up, but not totally figured out, but it's fine. FYNE, right? So first you, next everyone else. And I think we need to really got to find that. And it's not a matter of being selfish so much as it is building a really solid foundation. And I think right now we have a lot of people that are on, standing on weak branches, right, in regards to the foundation, and this is the reason why we fall for a lot of things, a lot of propaganda and whatnot. I mean, propaganda is just working overtime right now to sway our opinions one way or another. And, probably the best way to get rid of it is just to disconnect, not total disconnect, but just a mindful, intentional, strategic disconnect, and, go to a museum, read a book. What is your way of continuing the education of being an adult? Learn, listen to a new album, listen. New music is coming out all the time, and all the time new music is coming out. And it's the other thing too, in this show, we specifically talk about music that's coming out. But let me tell you, man, when I said that the music's going to be good for the next couple of years, the shows are going to be good for the next couple of years. There are some shows out there right now that are talking about all of this stuff in an artistic and non-preachy way. If you're watching Paradise, if you're watching The Boys on Prime, like there are shows. You could even go old school and watch all of Grimm. If you ever heard of that show, Grimm?
Yeah.
Fantastic show. But art is such a beautiful way of hiding the peas in the mashed potatoes.
There it is. Yeah.
And just like I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but if you want a good show to watch, do it. Scrubs is another one. It's like the arts are answering the call. Now it's just a matter if the people are willing to pick up the phone when the call is being made. That's my question. Are we willing to pick it up? Did you pay your bill? Pay your phone bill so you can answer the call.
Well, it's like they tell you, going back to your fine FYNE, fine, if you're French. They always tell you put your oxygen mask on first on the airplane.
Right.
And I don't think that we are putting our oxygen masks on because we are consumed by the flames around us. So we're living in this constant state of fear. And so taking that pause and saying, oh, hold on a second. Boop. Okay, where's the raft? Where's the door? Where's the exit? Oh, I'm in the exit row. Let me help these people, right? And again, getting back to the arts, let that be your anchor. It's funny you mentioned going in the woods. I did it this morning. I went for a run. I had my headphones in my pocket. I got probably half hour in before I was like, okay, all right. I didn't even pull them out. I just needed to. There's birds singing, fresh air.
Yeah.
I needed to reset. So nature bathing, do some of that. Take care of yourselves, people. It's rough out there. No matter where you sit, what you're thinking about, we're all feeling the stress. So
absolutely. That's what my fire pit does for me. I love hanging out by the fire pit and just letting the wood burn. And sometimes I'm writing, other times I'm just watching the wood burn and just sitting out there. I know I literally have talked to my neighbors like, hey, he's out. He was talking to his wife. Toby's out there again. He's out there looking at
is
that
Toby
wood
okay?
burn. Is he all right? He talked to me like after having done this numerous times. He said, we just know that that's your happy place. Like we know that is like the place where you feel pretty good. Like, yeah, as long as it's not too cold out there. But yeah,
sure.
that's my spot. So yes, sir.
All right, Tob. Well, let's get up on out of here. Yeah. Everyone go listen to Jalen. Leave us your thoughts because the other thing is you go to the YouTubes and everywhere else, and all the comments, or a lot of the comments, are like, oh my God, same thing. I didn't know this is a new artist. I didn't realize this was current music. I thought this was something I hadn't heard from back in the day. And so then there's that excitement of like, we're so happy this is coming back, right? Because there's, people that miss that kind of vibe. So yeah, go check it out. Let us know what you think. And Tobe, get us out of here with all the other stuff that people need to know about.
Yes, we are on Spotify as well as all the other platforms where you listen to all of your music. Riffs on Riffs. We're also on YouTube. So if you are the kind of person that just wants to, listen to the show in a different type of way and actually watch the video with us, I think that it's a pretty fun way of doing it. When we record this show, we don't record it. I think it's different now that we're recording in this way, knowing that it's going to be video instead of just audio. It's different. I remember it being different for us when we actually recorded in the same room, like at a studio. It's a different feel. So I think if you get a shot, get an opportunity to watch the video, take a moment, your lunch break, break it up into two days if you have to. No big deal. You got time, make time if you can, and check our show out on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Please subscribe. In a
similar way, we're recording live. We're just not in the same room, but
very true.
But it does give a different vibe, right? Because we're just like, we're in the conversation, as opposed to you have some flexibility. If it's just audio, you can just cut whatever. Video, you're like, you know what? Let's just keep it rolling. Sometimes you get bourbon snafus. That happens.
Yep, the bourbon snafu definitely made my laugh become a power falsetto when you did that. That is for sure. But hey, we have a good time doing it. We really appreciate everyone that's listening. Hey, share it with a friend or two or three if you get an opportunity. With all that being said, thank you for listening. Huzzah.
I'm Bruce Martin, host of Pit Pass Indy. Each week, I go behind the scenes of the NTT IndyCar Series and introduce our listeners to the biggest stars of IndyCar, which features the Indianapolis 500 as its cornerstone event. The men and women that compete in IndyCar may be the bravest athletes in all of sport, as danger lurks around every corner. They are able to look danger in the eye without flinching. That is why the NTT IndyCar Series features the best racing on the planet. Join me every week as we talk to the stars of IndyCar, including the legends of the Indianapolis 500 on Pit Pass Indy from Evergreen Podcast.